It's the land where I am from. Just visions of unicorn. It's the land where I am. Conjures visions of unicorn. Her beauty takes a unique form. Otherworldly, beautiful. gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. The first ever Believe in Scotland and rally for independent Scotland hosted in Glasgow. And I'm joined with Iona today. We've got something absolutely fantastic about to happen.
Where's the yes bikers? Are they here yet? No.
And if we can put our hands together for the yes speakers for in about 2 minutes time. Thank you so much. What a beautiful, beautiful day to celebrate. It's so important. So part. Everybody is on to take part today. This is something that's so important, so independent to work hard for to achieve. It's so important here today. I've teamed up with Venton for independence, to mark independence, but education poverty. Today is all about getting our positive vision for independent Scotland. And I think inspiration as I look around the crowd today, and we're going to have a
Oh, is that them? Oh, come on, louder for the yes bikers. I have no idea. There we go. Yes bikers over there coming in from the north. As well as you kind, lovely folks here in George Square in Glasgow. We're also being live streamed by Independence Live. If you're watching from home, please do get involved and send us a message using the hashtag Believe in Scotland. We will be checking Twitter, Facebook, and all the socials over the course of the afternoon. So please do tell us where you're tuning in from. So, I'd like to say a huge thanks to the Sor Alaba Pipe Band as well as Sheboom for leading our march today. Are going to have a little bit more music later on, but it's time to introduce our first speaker.
yes, our musician, journalist,
an oppositional media. Why did I think independence was an excellent and admirable and desirable idea? And I've just got three things to say in my remaining 3 minutes, so it'll take a minute for each. The first thing I dug into, and I realised I stand on this ground no matter what happens with the independence movement, is independence is a peace project. Am I right? It's interesting, if you read a lot of magazines and you read a lot of opinion editorials, because of various geopolitical maneuvers, people are starting to worry about the bomb again. Do you know what? The bomb never went away. I was reading a book, there's a woman called Annie Jacobson who's brought out a book called Nuclear War, a Scenario, and she reminds us that as soon as the Americans observe the flare of the rockets in Russia, the president has 6 minutes to decide when to react. We've been living that way for 30, 40 years. It's insane. And any country, any politics, any territory that has an opportunity to react against that should take that possibility. The moral core of independence is what? Is anti-Trident. Again, am I right? So to me, that is the number one reason for independence, is to save the planet. No small ambition, I'm sure you agree. Second thing is, I think that Scotland, we know we're very, very proud of our sustainability, our natural resources, our renewable resources. It's good we can try to make a business out of it. We can do industrial policy about it. We've got lots of business perspectives on it. But you know what? Trouble is coming down the pipe for climate. There is stuff baked in that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of the century. And you know what we've got the opportunity to do in Scotland? We've got the opportunity to build a society, an eco-civilization that's ready for it, that's prepared for it. What is it that we do in Scottish politics? We invent things, we innovate, we try things out. We have the biggest possible challenges when it comes to environmentalism. We're doing it, but we should do it even more intensely. We should be the eco-nation that other nations inspire. Again, do you disagree? Good. The other thing, what was it? The second thing I thought about independence, what do I believe that independence is for? Independence is about dealing and coping with the future. We know, I've just mentioned the environmental perspective, but you know, we've got machines, artificial intelligences, biotech coming down that's going to challenge our jobs, is going to challenge what we think we do, whether we do routine, whether we live an extra 30, 40 years because the biologists have figured out how to extend the lifespan. We actually have on one side the limits of the planet, and on the other side, the unlimited nature of technologies. Now, what can you do in a nation? What can you do in a democratic nation? You can decide what to do about what happens in your own country. And that's very much the case when it comes to technology. With the future's coming at us, what's the best way to deal with it? What's the best way to deal with the future? Correct, independence. Third thing, and this is my final point, I could have picked a better day to come to stand and speak in front of a square full of independent supporters, because I don't think our political classes, our party political classes, are serving us very well, no matter where they are. So the one thing I realise about independence is that it's not just independence from above, it's independence from below. In order to be independent, you have to start being independent. And it's so fantastic to see all the different groups, all the different interests. And this week and in 2 weeks' time, again in the same place, I don't care how many demonstrations it is, we see each other and we see each other's power. And their power is from the grassroots. So if you're involved in a grassroots organisation who doesn't wait, who doesn't ask for permission, just asks for forgiveness, I salute you and I cheer you. And please go ahead, cheer yourselves. Come on. If you're involved in the grassroots of independence movement, you are the independence movement, and I salute you. And you know what? It can be messy. People can get involved in niche fights and definitions. I don't care. I think the energy that's on display here is exactly the most precious resource that independence has. So in order to be independent, we have to be independent and independent-minded ourselves. So those are my three reasons. We save the world, we deal with the future, and we empower ourselves. What three better reasons could you want to be an independent Scotland? Agreed? Agreed. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to pass on to the next big mouth. See you later. Have a great day.
Please give a big round of applause for Pat Kane. And for those of you at the back, how are you all getting on? So, for those of you watching at home on Independence Live, and also use in George Square, please send comments, nice ones hopefully, hashtag in Scotland. Our next guest is a filmmaker and director, Jane McAllister. I have seen this film and there was not a dry eye in the Glasgow Film Theatre. If anyone has seen this heartwarmingly beautiful film, you'll understand the passion for independence that Jane has. I saw it at a packed out theatre and it was beautiful. To see ourselves as a fascinating snapshot of grassroots activism during the 2014 referendum campaign. Please welcome Jane McAllister.
Thanks. I'm a bit nervous. Sorry, I've never spoken like this. Yeah, I filmed the lead up to the 2014 independence referendum through the perspective of my family in Musselburgh in East Lothian, and I didn't really mean to make the film. It was fairly tricky. I was actually heavily pregnant at the time, and I wouldn't recommend anyone make a documentary like that. It was full on, and yeah, I couldn't get any funding, so it's taken me 10 years to get to this point, and I've been touring around Scotland with the film, and it's just been marvelous to like speak to people and hear the feedback and share the story. You know, my dad I was filming my dad, and he initially asked me to film some of the meetings that he'd set up for YouTube. And I just was going to help out because I hadn't picked up the camera in a long time. And I got into these meetings and I had a radio mic on my dad, and it wasn't really the speeches at the meetings as good as they were. I was already on board. The thing that I was interested in was zooming into these conversations that he was having with activists on both sides, and the passion and the fluency that people were speaking and articulating these discussions. And I thought, this is so interesting and important, and it felt like maybe history was happening, and I actually really felt like I was filming the rebirth of a nation. I don't want to spoil the ending of the film, but I couldn't make it happy. Well, yeah, there's sadness, but actually going around and sharing this story, what I found is people find the film completely uplifting, because it is a record of what we all know happened in the summer of 2014, was the sheer embodiment of hope and joy, and it happened here in George Square, and people were dancing and singing and coming together and believing in a better future. And that's what I hope that I recorded in the film. It wasn't the divisive referendum that some people would like us to believe. It was totally energised. Everyone had an opinion. No matter what your opinion was, you were expected to have it, and you expected to speak it. And as a filmmaker, that was amazing, because I would just go out with my camera onto the street and people would come up and they would talk about the economy. They would talk about currency, about pensions, about nuclear weapons. And yeah, it was just marvellous. And I think it was a time that we should be proud of. The worry is that people who believe in the EU don't want to be proud of that peaceful movement for change in 2014. And they don't want us to be proud of our civic nationalism as opposed to ethnic nationalism. They don't want to be us to be proud of our moral cause, our socialist values, and our distinct Scottish culture. And the reason they don't want us to be proud is because when we're proud, we're confident and we know where that's going to lead. So maybe that's why there were so many roadblocks to this film getting out. But yeah, it's called To See Yourselves, and I think that's what it does. It holds a mirror up to society, and that's what culture and art should do. It helps us understand ourselves. And the thing that observational documentary can do, I mean, this is not talking heads. This is people on the street. It's natural action happening. And what it does is what news reporting can't do and what social media can't do, it brings empathy into the debate. And, one of the best pieces of feedback I got was in the screening in Cromarty, where an Englishman said to me, he moved up 3 years ago with his family. And he said, I never understood the desire for independence. And now watching the film, I do. And that's all it is. It's just understanding. He's maybe not going to vote for it, but he understands our movement and the emotions behind it. So, I certainly would like to see a documentary from the other side. I would like to understand it. I think all these stories should be supported. But I will say, this film was actually managed to come out through a number of things. It was support from my family, first of all, and many friends who watched many edits and gave me the support, and people like Pat Kane and Leslie Riddoch who watched cuts and gave me the backing that I needed emotionally. And then there was a crowdfunder, which a year ago this week we launched, and it was strangers, people I didn't know, put their hands in their pockets and gave me money to help finish the film. So if anyone here did that, thank you so much. You made this happen, and it made me realise actually the big lesson of this whole project was that you have to just do it yourself. You can't really rely on the institutions or the committees or the people that follow rules. You just have to get out there, and I'm just so grateful that people supported me in that. And to that end, we hope that you will help us distribute this film further. So we're releasing it now to groups to screen and take it into your communities. And actually this weekend, I've released the film for free. It's online. And you'll see there's a QR code here. There's another one somewhere. If you scan it, you can watch the film tonight or tomorrow. Check it out. And then there's links on that QR code where you can connect with us, and we can help you work your way of showing this film. So I hope you enjoy it. You might cry, but I promise you'll laugh as well. It's your story too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jane. We hope everybody's having a fantastic afternoon. And I can't believe the sun's out, to be honest. It's such a beautiful day. Absolutely brilliant. So just a wee reminder, this afternoon, join us for the Believe in Scotland after party. It's going to be held at the committee rooms on John Street. And it's from 7 p.m. until 12. And we're going to have lots of musical performances, including our host, Iona Fyfe. Tickets are only £5, either on the door or from Believe in Scotland website. So our next speaker is trade unionist Gordon Martin. He is the one who is Scotland's organiser for RMT, dealing with railway infrastructure, CalMac and other maritime companies, as well as road transport. So please, everybody, put your hands together and welcome Gordon Martin to the stage.
Good afternoon, Glasgow. You can see I've brought the weather with me once again, consistently bringing the good weather. It's a policy of my work for a socialistic order of society. And that's why I believe in independence. Because under the failed Westminster governments of any Tory colour, whether it's Tory blue, the other colour of Tory, we will have child poverty. We will have pensioner poverty. We'll have drug and alcohol addiction problems. We need to break that vicious social circle. The only way we can do it is through Scottish independence. It's fantastic to see our comrades here for the Palestine ceasefire now. And it's also good to see the Scottish Government have the courage of their convictions to at least demand a ceasefire for day one, and not like the Tory, the windbag Tories at Westminster, hedging their bets, back in Israel, back in genocide. Absolutely disgraceful. And let's hope they pay the electoral price very shortly. However, we kick out the blue Tories, we may very well end up with the red Tories. But don't lose hope. Let's keep fighting for independence. Let's keep fighting for social justice. And to have social justice, we need social policies. We need an infrastructure policy. We need integrated travel. We need all these things. And to be honest, the Scottish Government could be doing more with the current powers they've got. So we need bold, transformative policies for the current Scottish Government that will enthuse people like you to vote for independence. Weak and managerial policies don't bring votes. So we need to bring back the spirit of 2014 for the people in the schemes right across Scotland, driving us forward to independence. That's where we need to get back to. We need to stop tinkering about with policies that suit the middle class and the middle class alone. We need policies that drag everybody up. That's the game we're in. We need social policies. We really need socialist policies. But we're not going to get that for SNP. So we'll take social policies as a starting point and we'll work for there to build a real country we can all be proud of. A country that takes its place in the international stage, that demands ceasefires in Gaza, that demands an end to the aggression and the genocide, and that demands people are treated as human beings right across the globe. That's why I want independence. I don't want to be a generation that passes inferior conditions, social conditions onto my kids. That's not the natural order of things. The natural order of things is that my kids should inherit the earth, a better form of the earth than I inherited from my parents. And that doesn't come easy. And as our union rule book says, to work for a socialistic order of society. So that means it's not going to be easy. But demos like this send a clear message to the rotten government at Westminster, the rotten clique at Westminster, and in my humble opinion, the rotten opposition at Westminster, that the people of Scotland aren't going to stand for it. The people of Scotland demand an end to child poverty. They demand an end to pensioner poverty. They demand an end to homelessness. They demand an end to crap housing. We need proper council housing built for the people, especially the young people of this country. That's what we need. And any politician that can't sign up to that, for me, isn't worth voting for. So people that are here in the SNP or the Greens or any other party, ALBA, any party involved in the indie movement, you need to keep their feet to the fire and keep pushing them to the left, keep pushing them for policies. Because without that, we'd be Wellstein with the rotten mob in London. That's the reality. If you're poor and living in a damp house It doesn't matter to you if it's a Tory that's put you there or any other form of government. So we need transformative change right across Scotland. And any party that isn't up for that, we need to kick out. And I'll end with this. You know, it's disappointing here. We've got a lot of the Yes family here, but some have been excluded. And I'm not a member of any party. I've no axe to grind whatsoever. But we need the whole Yes family here. We need the whole Yes family fighting together to end all the poverty issues I've just spoke about. And we need to end the student politics of some of the politicians. I'm not interested in any of the politicians. I'm interested in you guys. So keep fighting. The independent stream hasn't gone away. And hope is always stronger than fear. Solidarity.
Okay, so we've had some lovely comments through today. A very substantial Believe in Scotland march. And a wee wave from Humza Yousaf, that's Dr. Siobhan Walsh on Twitter. Of course, I must mention that today's march has only been possible through the tireless work of Believe in Scotland, as well as our partner organisation, Pensioners for Independence. Please give a big round of applause for Pensioners for Independence. So next up, we have an absolute treat for you in our first musical endeavour of the afternoon. It's not me, I'm no singing. The next act is an artist I'm really excited about. It's a new song that they're going to perform. This is a new musical project from an artist called Kirsty Heggie. Yeah, round of applause for Kirsty. Aria is a mix of acoustic and electronica music with powerful fluid vocals, with Celtic spiritual tones and captivating storytelling. On the project's new album, there's a song called The Unicorn Song. It features one of my favourite folk singers, Adam Hope. Please do check out this wonderful artist and give them a follow or a like, or buy their music. It's on Bandcamp. Please welcome Kirsty Heggie.
Beautiful. It's so nice to be here. So I'm going to sing a song for you. So I'm going to sing two songs. One is called Galan La, which is near enough in Gaelic, seize the day. I had a dream, our country was free, standing on the road to the great and dignity. This land where I am from conjures visions of unicorns Her beauty takes a unique form, otherworldly and yet forlorn. Oh, she needs at last to come together and to raise her voice. There are ties that must be severed to rise above the noise. Seize the day, seize the day, seize the day, seize the day. For we are a gentle people, and our land is rich and fit and able, and we ourselves are fully capable. All that's left to do is enable. We want our fair share at the table of a son of fairness. It's all a fable. Get lost in the noise. Westminster way. Let's take a stand. Let's not stand in our own way. Seize the day. Oh, your hopes and dreams might surely fade away if you don't seize the day. I woke from the dream, I cast my vote like a wishing stone into the screen. And it danced over the water, making dimples like the lines of an ancient face, smiling ripples echoing through time. For a stream is just a stream, though she longs to be. She must be. Oh, she can be. So seize the day. Yeah. Thank you so much. So it's Aria Music is the name of the project. Aria after the mermaid who apparently thrusts her pelvis out over the M80 in Cumbernauld. Aria 2 hours. So for the next song, I had a marvellous combination of artists that came together and we collaborated on the Unicorn song. That is, any fans of Glasgow rapper Gasp? Gasp. One person. Adam Holmes and Becca Starr collaborated together on this piece with myself. So without further ado,
Sure. I remember surname McAllister. It's Jane McAllister. Yeah. Well, hello, Broadcasting Scotland. We're here at George Square of Believe in Scotland rally and march. Parties have taken stand and been talking about the benefits that an independent Scotland could have for business here. I'm here with Jane McAllister, who is a filmmaker. Take a moment to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about.
Just dreamers let down by what? 2%? Shake off the dust and step on board. You know some things were meant.
Unexpectedly, I didn't really intend to spend 10 years on a project like this. But yeah, it just took me a long time. But we've been touring Scotland like for the past 6 months. Cinemas around Scotland, about 30 different towns, and speaking to people after the event. And it's just been it's been wonderful to do that, a privilege to do that, and to finally be giving the story away, you know.
And you were kind of telling me before we went live that normally this isn't your scene. You know, usually you're not an activist and a speaker at like these sort of things. So what brings you out here today specifically? What was so important about this event that made you want to change?
Well, I was asked, Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp, who organised this, who's behind Believe in Scotland, asked me, and obviously he'd picked up on the film. He'd supported a crowdfunder we did like a year ago, and has kind of backed the film throughout its tour, and felt that we're coming to the end of the tour. We're releasing the film to groups over the summer for them to screen themselves, and then we'll be releasing the film properly online in September for the 10-year anniversary. So I guess the timing kind of works well for this. It doesn't feel natural to me. I'm not a public speaker in any way, and I've been absolutely just so nervous about this, and I'm just very glad that it's done. Yeah.
Great. And so, talk to me a little bit from your perspective as a filmmaker. Filmmaking in Scotland. What is it like? What does it need? And how did that play into your speech that you gave today?
It's very, very difficult to make films in general. It's a really expensive business, and you need funding and you need backing, and it's just extremely. I mean, I know money's tight and it's just very hard to get that, but I had made films before. I had a track record. They had won some awards. So when I shot the footage of the referendum, I believed I had a valuable record, and I believed that I could do something good with it. And I was just let down by the system and by the funders, essentially. And I can imagine all sorts of reasons why, but I was never given a straightforward reason. And so it's hard because luckily I do everything. Like I shoot and I edit, and the production part was the hardest bit for me because I'm not a producer. So I had to learn, especially for the distribution of the film, getting the film in venues, doing social media, which it doesn't come naturally to me, and just like all the admin and it's quite overwhelming, but I have learned a lot. And so what does the filmmaking Scotland need is to support more stories, I think, that come from Scotland. I mean, I'm biased. I think it's documentary I would support, because fiction is just so overwhelmingly expensive, and actually you can support many, many more documentary films for a lot less. So that would be my take. Scotland isn't just a beautiful location, which is sometimes the big pull. Projects come here from out with Scotland, but actually we should be nurturing our culture and our stories.
Wow, it sounds like you took on quite a heavy workload. Must have been a lot of learning. So, refocusing once again onto this specific event, obviously a big component of what we're talking about here is independence. When you're talking about these struggles with filmmaking, how much would independence alleviate that? Obviously, you're here because you believe it would do something. How do you see that playing out?
I just think I think the fact that this film wasn't picked up by any of the main festivals in Scotland and wasn't given any support tells you a lot about the sort of mindset of the country at the moment, the culture. That's something that something that's okay. Oh, a bit louder. Something that recording probably the most seismic, political anyway, historical event in this country. That kind of record is dismissed, to be honest, at the start without it even being watched. Tells me that we don't live in a country that's like supportive of those kind of stories. And if we had independence, well, we would be making a lot more content that wouldn't come across as controversial. It's just a story, And anyway, it's hard if you've not seen the film, but it's much more nuanced than people think.
Well, thank you very much, Jane McAllister. And hello, Broadcasting Scotland. We will now go back to the primary live stream, and we'll be potentially back with more interviews later.
He is the MSP for the West of Scotland region and a leading in the Green Party's work. Actually, MSP. Thank you so much, Rob. Please take it.
Thank you all for coming today. That's about you folks. I think our opponents are a bit upset. They can't stop talking about independence. They can't stop talking about us. And do you know why I think they're obsessed? I think they're obsessed because they're afraid. They are afraid because we believe in Scotland, because we believe that this can be a fairer country, a greener country, a more democratic country. We believe that in one of the richest countries on earth, no child should live in poverty. We believe in the very simple principle that the people who live here should be in charge of this country's future, and they should get the governments they voted for. Our opponents are afraid of all that because they don't have an alternative. They think this is as good as it gets. They think child poverty and benefit sanctions and Tory governments are as good as it gets for Scotland. They think that the choice should be between the cruelty of the Tories and a Labour opposition who don't believe in any change at all. That's not what we believe. We believe that another Scotland is possible, that a better, a fairer, a greener Scotland is possible. And it is the people who will deliver that. We certainly believe that our country could do so much better, that we deserve better than a government that is continuing to arm the state of Israel while it commits a genocide in Palestine. Please give it up for the Palestine Solidarity Bloc who are marching with us today. Our opponents trying to divide us. Their latest attempt at division is to try and pretend that there's a story in the SNP telling you to vote for them and the Greens telling you to vote for us. Shock! Two different political parties think that you should vote for them. We do, because we have different visions for this country, but the one thing that we are united on, that all of us here are united on, is that it should be for the people of this country to decide its future, and that we can do so much better than what Westminster offers us right now. And as the Green Party, we know that independence is critical for tackling the climate emergency. It's been a difficult few days for Scotland's climate ambitions. The targets we set, those world-leading targets, they were set by all parties, including the Tories, on the understanding that the UK government would cooperate with us. But they've not. They've ditched their own climate action and they've cut Scotland's infrastructure budget by £500 million this year alone. That's why on Thursday, the Scottish Government announced a massive new package of climate action to get us back on track, to play this country's full role in tackling that global crisis, and to protect our world-famous natural environment here in Scotland. That is what you're getting from this pro-independence majority government. The strength of our movement is not in everything that we agree on, I think. It's actually in our disagreements. It's in the range of visions that we have for an independent Scotland. We are united in the belief that it is the people who live here who should make that decision. But we all have a different vision for what that should look like, and we simply want to live in a democracy that allows us to make that choice. The Scottish Greens are proud to play our part in this movement. We are proud to march and campaign with you. And I am more confident now than I have ever been that we are marching towards the day where Scotland's future is in Scotland's hands. Thank you all so much for coming.
You never went out all together? No. I was on the Thank you to Ross Greer for that amazingly impassioned speech. We are broadcasting live, Broadcasting Scotland as well as Independence Live are putting this out on social media. Funding to keep getting you the news that you're not seeing on mainstream television. It is a beautiful day for the first ever Glasgow in Scotland March and Rally. Today has been produced by Believe in Scotland in partnership with Pensioners for Independence. And I'm sure many of you remember that beautiful day in September in Edinburgh where we marched down the Royal Mile and had the most wonderful, uplifting day. This was in partnership with Yes for EU. Our European connections are so important. Brexit was an unmitigated disaster. Our European connections remains integral to who we are, our traditions, customs, culture, songs and traditions, and is part of the independence movement, a central part of it. We are not the ISO-nationalist Little Britain that the UK government says that we are, which is why I am so excited to announce that Young Scots for Independence is holding its second annual international conference. Down at the front here is Olaf Stando, as well as some of the committee members who are hosting this conference in Stirling on the 17th and 18th of May. They are bringing over 30 European young leaders over to Stirling, putting them up, putting on workshops, socials, panel discussions with MPs and MSPs. And this conference is such a great opportunity for us to reach young activists in major European political parties from as far as Germany. So, the conference led by Olaf Stando, who is here in the crowd, is a passionate cause for Scottish independence, but it's also about us learning from other European countries on how to build a progressive politics. There is a cost involved, and the Young Scots for Independence have been working really hard to fundraise for this. If you see Olaf here today, there's flyers where you can get a little bit more information about the conference. And if you are 16 to 30 years old, you can still join and become a delegate and come along to the conference. Have a Google YSI, our European Future Conference. So, on to our next guest. Do you want the good news or the bad news? The good news is that the next speaker is brilliant. The bad news is that you now have two Ionas. Iona Soper writes and presents for Secure Scotland and works at Solidarity Against Neoliberal Extremism with Peace Education Scotland. Iona is a former resident of the Faslane Peace Camp. and is passionate about a Scotland without nuclear weapons. Iona is a proud resident of Glasgow, and for the last 3 years, she's been working more closely on issues of radical democracy and social movement building within the city. Please give a huge, huge round of applause for Iona Soper.
Hello, Glasgow. My name is Iona, my pronouns are she, her, and I believe that Scottish independence is inevitable. And that may be the most optimistic thing I've ever said. I'm mostly conscious that I don't have much time, so just take the optimism, savor it as it passes you by, because it's the last you're going to get from me. I want to talk about what happens after we attain our freedom, because for me, it would be a colossal own goal for Scotland to gain our independence, only to replicate on a smaller scale the policies that we've freed ourselves from. The policies that privatise everything from human welfare to climate action, policies that do not serve the people. And I think this speaks on a number of issues, whether that's the way we organise our housing or our health or our immigration. But I've been invited here today to speak about a subject that none of us can ignore right now, and that's war. I've been a vocal member of the anti-nuclear movement for about 8 years, and the independence movement has been a consistent stronghold for us, as well as a vital part of our strategy. Our independence offers us the unique opportunity to disarm a nuclear state from within, supported by the 70 countries that have already ratified the United Nations Nuclear Ban Treaty. Our rejection of weapons of mass destruction is a key part of us forming our own international identity, and our parliament is to be commended. Our of hospitals and targeting of aid convoys, engineered mass displacement and widespread famine, the highest daily death rate we've seen in any conflict of my lifetime. In Yemen, over 21 million remain in need of humanitarian aid. More than 4 million children are not in school, and over half of this number are suffering from acute malnutrition. In Ukraine, where schools and hospitals have also been targeted, 6 million have fled, leaving 4 million internally displaced. Now, last year, I was part of a Scottish delegation to northeast Syria, where I witnessed the legacies and realities of war following the Syrian.
Hello again, Broadcasting Scotland. I'm here now with Pat Kane, who I think some of our viewers might already know.
Some of your older viewers will know, yes.
So, but for those that don't, just take a moment to tell us who you are.
Who I am? I am a singer, writer. I was part of the Yes campaign, the main board of the Yes campaign in 2012, 2014. I'm a columnist for The National, and I'm the lead singer with an 80s band, still going strong, called Hue and Cry.
That's a lot to be doing, and yet you still found the time to come out here today. I think some of our viewers might have caught your speech, but what did bring you here, and what is it that you ended up saying?
Well, I mean, I realised that I hadn't spoken at an event like this for many years, and I've just moved back up to Scotland, so it's a bit of a kind of recommitment to the whole process up here. I wrote a piece for the National paper today, the Saturday version of the National, which was like 8 reasons why I think independence is a good idea. I mean, like a listicle on independence, you know, something like BuzzFeed. But actually, it surfaced a whole lot of things that I didn't. I realised that my positions, my reasons for what supporting independence have changed over the years, but the outcome, I still wanted the same outcome. So I'm much more. I just think it's 3 things I said on stage was one. You're basically, independence is nothing if it's not a peace mission, you know, and the biggest contribution to peace that we can make is to be against nuclear weapons in our own country, because we're living under absurd conditions where we've been on a hair trigger for 60 years. It's absolutely ridiculous way for human beings to live on the planet. So the one thing that independence can do, if it does that, then it does something that's globally significant, that goes against the grain and the trend of things. And it's been the basis for independence politics since the 60s and the 70s. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the number 1 reason. Number 2 reason is that because I think the future is pretty demanding in so many different levels, whether it's on the side of limits, we have environmental planetary boundaries that we're hitting, and we have to try not to crash through them. That's limited perspective. Unlimited is basically AI and biotech, which is just throwing possibilities at us that we're just going to have to get ready for. So how do we get ready for the future? How do people get ready for the future just on their own, in their own families, in their own communities to some degree? But if you've actually got the possibility to build a nation that controls its own territory, that runs its own laws, that has its own jurisdiction, you can begin to get ready for the future in advance. So, for example, what's a housing and a welfare and a cost of living crisis when the AIs take over all the problems? We have to find a solution, and you have to be able to test the solution. And Scotland is a place, it's coherent enough, it's small enough, it's capable enough that we can test out some of these solutions. And then the third thing I realised is that independence, small I independence as well as big I independence, it's healthiest when it's about grassroots taking control of their lives. So we have an uncompleted job of democracy to do, and even within the Scottish Parliament, we have a very, very poor ratio of populations to councils. It's the biggest councils in Europe, has to be much smaller. But as well as that, we have the opportunity for people to think deeply about their lives. Post-COVID, we had an experience where we all kind of took a deep look at our own lives and what the priorities of our own lives are. That's got to be part of the independence question as well. It's not just independence. I mean, I slightly disagree with the poster on stage. Independence is normal. Independence is going to have to deal with the extraordinary, and it's going to have to be extraordinary to deal with that. And people are going to have to raise their game as citizens and consumers and producers. It's not easy to do. You can't do it just by your own bootstraps. You do it collectively. And a new nation is a great way to set new standards in your life, both your community life and in your large collective life as well. It's a way. We need to find a way to be secure, but also be able to take risks, and that's one of the things that I think a nation state can do. Achieving a nation state can do that. It can hold us, give us a security, and it can give us the platform to try things out, because the future's coming and we have to be ready for it.
That was a lot of really interesting stuff. I guess one of the things you mentioned there is how you would want to see Scotland going against the grain of how a lot of other countries are headed, I suppose. And you talk about the difficulties that Scotland would have to face when going against that grain. So maybe taking a look at it from a different angle, what sort of boons or what sort of positives would you want to see us, independent Scotland leveraging to be able to deal with all those difficulties?
Sure. Well, I mean, just to take it from the negative case, many people are saying, well, you can't do any of these experiments because the capital markets and the bond markets will do capital strikes against your currency or against your country, and you can't buck the norms. I think we have to find a way to do that. I think one of the ways to do that is to look at the internal resources of the country and act on those. So, for example, you're in a community, you want to try out something, you want to try out local food chains, or you want to try out some kind of deliberative space. There's an empty building in the locality, but you either can't afford it, or the council won't release it, or the property owner won't be. I think there's a point at which people are just going to have to move into these buildings and say, this is what we're using them for. We're using it for childcare, we're using it for food supply, we're using it for energy generation, or land in the same way. And because people are doing constructive activities rather than destructive activities, so it's not like Extinction Rebellion, smashing things up, putting paint putting soup over paintings. It's how do we look at the assets in our community and revitalise them from within, and look for, as I say, forgive not permission. I think we need more of that spirit in Scotland. It's a sort of gentle revolutionary spirit. That's a way in which we feel confident about taking bold steps in their wider lives, which would include a bold step towards having an independent Scotland. But I think there needs to be wealth and possibility generated from where people are, and they need to be a lot bolder in terms of going and taking it, so that a certain percentage of the pie chart of their lives is them supporting themselves, as opposed to waiting for legislation or waiting for institutions. I mean, and that bit that is an experience of you supporting yourself or building your own local power structures, means that you have an experience of power, and so therefore bigger questions of power, which is the kind of the independence question, do not scare you. They do not frighten you. They do not freak you out because you're self-determining at a lower level, so that you can be ready for self-determination at a bigger level. I think that you need a bolder citizenry for independence, and I think the question of how you grow that boldness. There's my suggestion, but there may be other suggestions. An amazing new party, for example, might be able to pull that together. But I think local power is the essence of a future independence strategy.
Well, thank you so much. That was a lot that you gave us. The viewers will be sure to have enjoyed. Not perfect. Maybe not. Yeah, that'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Pat Kane. We're going back to the broadcast. It was nice seeing you.
Friends and comrades in the struggle for independence, the Scottish Socialist Party is proud to have been the socialist wing of the independence movement for the past 25 years. And we believe that workers, trade unionists, young people, pensioners, the unemployed and others on benefit all need to be shut of the rule and ruin of this country by a Tory government that never got a majority for the last 69 years in Scottish elections. The working class majority of the population, in all its glorious diversity of colours and creeds and genders and countries of origin, to the benefit of the millions and not millionaires. The benefit of the proverbial butchers, bakers and candlestick makers, and not to the benefit of the 20 families in Scotland that own more combined wealth than 1.7 million of our people in this country. The goal of an independent socialist Scotland is to enforce a radical, fundamental and irreversible transfer of wealth and power away from the rich to the rest of us through measures that immediately match people's needs. Measures like a wage in today's money of £15 an hour for everybody over 16, with equal pay for women. Measures like a 4-day week for 5 days a day, as a first step to harness the marvels of science, to liberate the working class from drudgery and free them up to run society. We want voluntary retirement instead of being compulsory. All forms of public transport into public ownership, and using the wealth freed up from people like the Easdale brothers, 1.5 times over billionaires who own McGill's, off from the passengers to provide free public transport for people of all ages as a means of combating poverty and pollution. To drag Scotland into the 21st century on fleets of clean, green buses, trains, subways and ferries in order to create tens of thousands of jobs in the process. We want a Scotland that ends the situation where Grangemouth workers are fearful for their jobs, for green wind farm jobs, 5,000 in the last year. A Scotland where retired ex-miners, North Sea oil workers, shipyard workers, nurses, in fact 1 million households shiver through the winters. The fossil capitalists in BP, Shell, Ineos and others rake in billions in profit by ripping us off. We want an end to that. We want a Scotland with democratic public ownership of all forms of energy to ensure a rapid transition to green energy production led by workers in the industry themselves.
Who are the experts, after all? We want to provide clean, grade, affordable energy to homes and to retrofit every home free of charge, creating an estimated 70,000 jobs in the process. Our vision is a Scotland where we can put an end to the racist, divisive incitement about talk about stopping small boats, and instead we stop the big boats, the very big boats, the nuclear submarines who are infesting the waters of the west of Scotland with warheads who could wipe out an entire population. The Scottish Socialist Party stands for a Scotland that redirects the £220 billion that's squandered on trident weapons of mass extermination into building publicly owned hospitals, publicly owned schools. I don't mean public schools, I mean publicly owned. Quality council housing for rent and a publicly owned national care service fit for the 21st century. We want a Scotland that gives refuge, warmth, and the right to work for a decent wage to all the huddled masses fleeing from war, famine, and straightforward poverty, to enrich a democratic socialist republic with their cultures and their humanities. That's the kind of Scotland we want. We welcome the fact that the Scottish Government has already called.
Hello, welcome to Broadcasting Scotland here at the Business for Scotland and Pensioners for Independence live in George Square in Glasgow. I'm joined by
I'm doing great.
It's a lovely atmosphere here in George Square. So James, can you maybe tell us what you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I've got a number of different projects on at the moment. I'm working on a new novel, but it's early stages and I'm quite superstitious about talking about that until it's out. But it's going to be a contemporary novel and there's quite a political element to it. But so it kind of harks back to some of the earlier stuff. Some of your viewers may know my novel And the Land Lay Still, which is a big novel about the movement, the changes in Scotland over the last 50 or 60 years. So I'm picking up some of the threads from that and hope to come out with some of those. But I don't think the book's going to be out for a couple of years.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. So I'm just wondering, could you maybe tell us a little bit about why the organisers maybe would have asked you to make a contribution on stage today? Maybe say something about why you think Scotland should be independent.
Yeah, I think the organisers had clocked that I read a couple of poems and a short piece of fiction at a recent conference, which seemed to go down quite well. And it was quite a nice atmosphere because what I read out is supposed to make people laugh, and I think sometimes it's important to have a bit of humour when you're dealing with big important political issues. So I think that was why they approached me to come today, which I was delighted to be able to do and to be included in this. Because I do think it's springtime. It's it's the first. The weather's changed for the good, and maybe that's a time of renewed optimism and to begin to get people to really think again about why we need independence and how to get there. It's obviously those are big questions at the moment, and nobody has the exact answers. But I think getting people out to say actually there's still a lot of us out here who really believe in this cause is crucial, and having a big rally like this in Scotland's biggest city is a really good marker to lay down at this particular moment.
And so I know you've been spending some time in the Green Tent where all the previous speakers and the people that are waiting to speak have been. Have you had any interesting conversations or anything that any gossip you can give us from the Green Tent?
Not any gossip that I think I could really share, but everybody's up for it. What's really interesting about that, the green room, as you refer to it, is there's people from all different walks of life. There's people with different interests and different specialities. People who are really keen on working for peace. People from CND. There's obviously the First Minister is there and is going to speak shortly. There's artists, there's musicians, etc. And we're all coming at it from different places with different age groups and so on. that we've just got one thing in common, and that is that we believe that Scotland, like most other countries in the world, would be far better off if it was like other normal countries that had control of its own affairs. And I believe that, and I believe that for the last, for almost my entire life, so for 50 years or so. Funnily enough, I've just recently become a pensioner, so it's interesting that this has been run by Pensioners for Independence. So I've not just become a pensioner, but I've become a pensioner for independence. And so nothing has changed in my life, except as I've got older, I've become more and more convinced that really, in order for Scotland and its people to realise the very best that we can be, we have to regain the independence that we had until 1707.
James, thank you for that. I know that you're going to be speaking in a couple of minutes, so I think we better let you go so that you can gather your thoughts, and we'll be streaming it live here on Broadcasting Scotland. So thank you for your time with us, and good luck.
Yeah, thanks very much. You're very welcome. Okay, cheers. Cheers.
Oh, lassie, go. I will build my love about crystal fountain, and on it I will pile all the flowers of the mountain. Go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Well, ye go, lassie, go. If my true love were gone, leave no other to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Well, ye go, lassie, go, and we'll all to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? I will range through the wilds and the great glen and return to power. We my spoils for my deity. Will ye go, lassie, go, and we'll walk together to the wild mountain thyme, all around heather. Well, ye go, lassie, go, and we'll all go to the wild mountain thyme, all around heather. Well, ye go, lassie, go. Thank you.
Oh my God. Absolutely fantastic. Put your hands together for Iona. Absolutely brilliant. And to everybody who joined in as well. Again, just to remind you all about the after party at the committee rooms, please, please come along. You can pay on the door. You can get your tickets from the website. Can we actually hear a big round of applause for Pensioners for Indie, please? Absolutely brilliant. Now, our next guest is a member of the partners organisation who you've just cheered, Marlene Halliday. Now, she joined Pensioners for Indie after the Brexit referendum when she wanted to be more active in the Scottish independent movement. She serves as a treasurer on the Pensioners for Indy National Coordinating Group, but is also a musical entertainment, part of a musical entertainment troupe. Marlene is an absolute powerhouse. She's a woman of many talents, a fiddler and an activist within the movement. She also is a co-presenter on the podcast with Fiona McGregor. One of their podcast series is called The Up of Independence, Maybe I Show. They also host a show called Bits and Pieces, which is a monthly roundup of the independent related news. She should have actually been retired by now, to be honest, but I'm not quite sure how she does it. So please, everybody, put your hands together. Marlene.
Our house. I didn't quite know that, but so today we were marching here. The banner at the front of the march said "Independence to end pensioner poverty." So when Scotland is independent and we become that nation again, yeah, we get a decent retirement pension. But I think we need to do this now, and I'll tell you why. We've got a current state pension. It's called the UK New State Pension, 220 quid a week. Dead generous, isn't it? But if you're 70 or over, you don't get that. You get 50 quid a week less than that. You get 170 quid a week. Now, some 70, 71-year-olds depend on that 170 quid a week. So can we not do something now to address that? I think we can. So in Scotland, we've got the Scottish Child Payment. It's for low-income families. It's now at £25 a week for each child. Parents say how much less stressful their lives are because they know that money's coming in. It's been described as an absolute game changer for inequality. So how about a Scottish pensioner payment? And yeah, initially we aim it at the folk who are dependent on that pension. How about just 10 quid a week to start off with? I mean, that would make a difference. And that would be a caring thing to do. That would give people some more dignity. And isn't that one of the things that we want our government to do, to help make people's lives easier and give them that dignity? So think about it. I'm not quite sure where the First Minister is, but he's around here somewhere. Think about a Scottish pensioner payment to help the pensioners who are really dependent on that measly 170 quid a week. So the other thing that was on the banners, of course, is about independence. And I have to say that people my age, we're not convinced. Now, some of us do quite a lot to try and convince more folk, but we haven't managed it yet. For every pensioner who wants Scotland to be independent, there are 2 pensioners out there who want to stay in the UK. But for those of you who are 16, 25, for you it's completely the other way round. More than 2/3 of you want Scotland to be independent. So look, well done, guys. So listen, we need to start talking to each other. Folk my age need to start talking to you and vice versa. How about we set up some sort of cross-generation conversation project? And, in Ireland, when they were making changes to their constitution, just imagine they've got a constitution written down. They can make changes to it. But the young folk phoned up the older folk. neighbour, help them take their bins out, help them get their messages up the stairs and the lifts, because I tell you, it's always really appreciated if you do that kind of thing. Get chatting to them. Tell them why Scotland being an independent nation is important to you. Tell them what a difference you think it would make to you, but also tell them what a difference it would make to them. Point them to Pensioners for Indie Groups, point them to our website. And when you've had a go at that a few times and you've found out the kind of things that can persuade older people, well, then you need to get your message out to a wider audience. And at that point, get in touch with me. Come and talk to us at Scottish Independence Podcast, or talk to the Broadcasting Scotland people, or write something for the National. So to give folk my age a nudge, just persuade some of those maybes aye, maybes no pensioner to give your futures a bit more weight than they are doing at the moment. And then listen, in return, we're going to give you a nudge, because you younger folk, you're convinced of independence, but you're not so good at actually going out and voting for it. See us, we're really good at going out for vote for it. We've got long memories. We can tell you why it's really important to go and vote if you want to change things, because I'll tell you, about a bit more and give us a nudge about, you know, why independence is so important to you and what your dreams are about it, and we'll give you a nudge to go and vote. So those two things, Scottish pensioner payment and cross-generation conversations. If we do that, we'll give the polls a wee nudge. And then we can give them another wee nudge. And at some point, hopefully not too far away, we can come here and we can really celebrate. Thank you.
Please give a huge round of applause for Marlene. What a powerhouse of a woman. So, I know you're tired. I know you've been walking, you've been listening to me blather on, but we do have First Minister Humza Yousaf here to give a speech for you all. Woo! Of course, we can't go without saying a huge thanks again to Pensioners for Indie who've supported the event today. It is so important that a current and independent Scotland eradicates pensioner poverty once and for all. So you have been getting in touch on social media. Emma Knox for you says, fabulous day, great turnout, fabulous atmosphere. Safer in George Square. And the speeches begin. I didn't expect sun, but a great day out marching for a fairer and more equal and prosperous Scotland, an independent Scotland at the heart of Europe. Super Believe in Scotland event in Glasgow today. It's time for change, real change. Some lovely feedback in there. So I'm fair triggered to announce the next speaker. His work I've been admiring for years and years and years. James Robertson is a poet, novelist, short story writer and editor, writing both in English and in the Scots language. And I'm delighted that the Scottish Languages Bill, introduced by our government, is coming into force this year, hopefully. James is most well known for his novels, including The Testament Gideon Mac and The Land Lay Still, which is considered one of the great modern Scottish novels. Of this publishing children's books in the Scots language. Please welcome James.
Hello. What a brilliant day this has been. I'm going to keep this short and sharp and to the point because I think everybody's getting a wee bit tired and it's even cooled down a bit. But what a brilliant day, what a brilliant turnout. And congratulations to all of you who have made this such a successful rally, march and rally. I've just, the organisers of the rally were pensioners for Scotland, for independence. And funnily enough, a few weeks ago, I actually became a pensioner myself. But more important than that, I became a pensioner for independence. I've believed in independence for Scotland all my life, and it's not changed. In fact, that belief is getting stronger the older I get. So it's brilliant to see so many folk out here. I'm going to keep this very short. I'm going to read you one poem, and it's a very brief history of Scotland. It's called A Shortbread History of Scotland, and it's Caledonia, whiskey galore, make it in Livingston, Lochaber no more. Glasgow's miles better, a Gordon for me, pure dead brilliant, you'll have had your tea. Keat Mila Falcha, Kamawa Ben, will ye no come back again? Kimmerahau, Offy no wheel, Jock Thompson's bairns in the land of the leal. Scotland, free or a desert, the stag at bay. Pay no poll tax, Scots wha hae. Lead on, Macduff. That wasna me. Up with the bonnets, a bonny Dundee. A parcel of rogues, the thin red line. Granny's heeling hame for auld lang syne. Haste ye back. Come on, get off. Muckle fat sumph, ship it wee naff. Here's to us, was like us, made from girders. Lovely biscuits, there's been a murder. The blood is strong, Dunsire blue, whar's your Wally Shakespeare now? Thank you. The second thing I'm going to read is based on a phrase that many of you will be familiar with that comes on at the end of the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news on the BBC. It's a moment when created by a committee that was supposed to find something that would not offend anybody. But I find that it offends me all the time whenever I hear it. And the phrase is, the news where you are. So I'm just going to read this wee piece for you and then make way for the last couple of speakers. That's all from us. Now it's time for the news where you are. The news where you are comes after the news where we are. The news where we are is the news. It comes first. The news where you are is the news where you are. It comes after. We do not have news where you are. The news where you are may be news to you, but it is not news to us. The news may be international, national, or regional. The news where we are may be international news. The news where you are is never international news. Where you are is not international. The news where you are comes after the international and national news. The news where you are may be national news or regional news. However,
national news where you are is not national news where we are. It is the news where you are. If the news where you are is national news, it is only national where you are. The news where we are is national wherever you are. On Saturdays, there is no news where you are after the news where we are. In fact, there is no news where you are on Saturdays. Any news there is not where you are, it is where we are. If there is news where you are but not where we are, it'll wait until Sunday. After the news where you are comes the weather. The weather where you are is not the national weather. The weather where you are comes after the news where you are, and after the weather where you are comes the national weather. Do not confuse the national weather with the weather where you are. The weather where you are comes first, but is lesser weather than the national weather. Extreme weather is news. However, weather that is more extreme where you are than where we are is not news. Weather that is extreme where we are is news, even if extreme weather where we are is only average weather where you are. On average, weather where you are is more extreme than weather where we are. Tough shit. Good night.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody that's here today. Now, next up, we have somebody who I myself am particularly inspired by. We have Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp. Gordon is actually the founder of in Scotland. He is an so many more ways. He's the author of the book Scotland the Brief, which is actually about Scotland's economy. And this book has already sold over 70,000 copies. All of the donations of which go towards the Independence Scotland campaign. I'd just like to say that without his work today, this simply would not be happening. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please on the stage, Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp.
What a fantastic day we're having, and again, the sun is shining on the independence movement. Which isn't so great for me because I keep getting sunburned. Now, 10 years ago this September, Scotland had an independence referendum. And I don't know about you, but I think it's high time we gave the Scottish people a chance to correct the mistake we made that day. And none of this 10-year plans or 15-year plans. I don't want to hear anybody else telling me, oh, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, because it can. How about we start a new campaign? How about we say right here, right now, we're starting a new campaign to get a mandate from the Scottish people for Scotland to be an independent nation at Holyrood 2026. If we can't agree terms on a referendum, we'll make it a de facto referendum and Scotland will become an independent country. Since 2014, the United Kingdom has changed. The UK that existed then has become an international embarrassment. Brexit, a cost of living crisis, a farcical response to COVID, and also mass corruption. the Scottish people the same question now, they would give a very different answer. And folks, that's why we're not going to agree a referendum with Westminster, because they know if there's a referendum, they need a referendum to become an country, and sure well does not need permission of the Westminster government either. Just a temporary transfer from Westminster to Holyrood. And who wants a temporary transfer of power? That suggests that Westminster has sovereignty over Scotland, and it certainly does not. So let's demand the power to have a referendum on any subject the Scottish people want, whenever the Scottish people want one. But folks, don't hold your breath, because Sir Keir Thatcher, democracy snatcher, is never going to agree to a referendum. He's about to be handed a massive majority, one of the biggest in British political history. It would be akin to being an elected dictator, and he does not give a damn about Scotland and will not have to listen to the people of Scotland. So the writing's on the wall. As far as I'm concerned, it's a de facto referendum in 2026. That is the choice of the UK government, because obviously the Scottish government has been asking for a referendum. The Scottish people have asked for a referendum in multiple elections. They think it's a good choice because they think it'll divide us, because they choose to vote for a political party rather than to vote for our nation. But it's going to rebound on them, because as soon as the Scottish independence movement has a target, as soon as we have a road to independence, we will be able to come together and unite. And when we come together, no one can stop us. Now, folks, I hear people say that independence is the dream that won't die. Yeah, fair enough. I like that. But how about we stop talking about it as a dream and start talking about it as a plan with a deadline, and let's get people activated, and let's go out there and talk to the undecided, engage them, and find a way to understand why they haven't voted for independence in the past and bring them over to our side. The last summer, Believe in Scotland published its Road to Independence, and it had a constitutional convention on Scottish independence at its heart. After this general election, let's get that out of the way, launch a new constitutional convention on Scottish independence, and get every single yes group, every single political party, every campaigning organisation, every think tank, everyone included. This can't be a elites talking house or conversation amongst political elites. It has to involve everyone within our movement, and also it has conversation. Let's go to the streets of this convention, ask people to tell us what are their dreams, their hopes, and their aspirations for Scotland. Let's get them to tell us what they would change to make Scotland a better place. And if they tell us the type of country they want us to build, then they will vote for that plan when we put it back in front of them before Holyrood 26. Over the next few weeks, Believe in Scotland, and we'll reach out right across the Scottish independence movement, every political party, every single yes group. We want to talk to you and get your ideas as to how this convention would work. Everyone must be included. Now, some people might exclude themselves, but I don't think so. I think when we've got an opportunity to deliver independence, all the petty squabbles will disappear. And the reason for that is because independence support doesn't change like the wind. Political support might go up and down, but we carry the idea of an independent Scotland in our souls, and therefore it's only going to grow and grow and grow. We, the independence movement, activists for an independent Scotland, we carry our nation's fate with us, and Scotland carries us, and we will keep on campaigning until we win. It is my greatest honour to be able to stand in front of activists like yourself, in front of grassroots activists, in front of people who march with whatever organisation, who deliver leaflets, who man stalls for any political party, because there's hard work to be done, and we are going to do that hard work. Tomorrow morning at Langside Halls, there should be 40, 50 of us delivering leaflets on the south side of Glasgow. Come and join us. But I want to say that as far as the independence movement goes, you guys are my heroes. The people who will actually do the work, who will turn up, who will give out a Saturday and work for independence. Let's make this happen. Let's come together. And soon, Scotland will be an independent nation again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fantastic. Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp, please put your hands together again for the founder of this most incredible movement in March. Now, I've got to say something. I am a first generation born and raised in Scotland, studied in Glasgow, grew up in Edinburgh, and there's something that I'm so passionate about Scotland because the way that Scotland is represented worldwide to me does not reflect the reality of Scotland. Scotland is such a cosmopolitan, dynamic, forward-thinking place, you know. We are people that deserve to be able to lead ourselves, to stand on our own 2 feet and to say what we want to say. We're not governed by trends or fads. And when I talk about diversity in Scotland, this is something that's real. It's the kindness of the people, it's the acceptance of the people, and it's the fact that they give people the opportunity to live and to grow. And I myself am very proud to be Scottish and to have been born and raised in this country. Now, our next guest needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever. Again, another thing I love about our country is that we elect people based on merit. We put people in positions of power because they deserve to do so. And I think that what I love so much about our First Minister is it's someone that I met long before he came into that role. And as he was then, as he is now. So he is indeed the first Muslim to lead a country in the Western world. But above that and more than that, he's Scottish. He represents us. During his leadership, he's been a bastion of progressive policies. So please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome the First Minister.
What a Edinburgh. That the sun always shines on the righteous, and it has once again. Look at you and all of your beautiful diversity. Look at you. We've got those from Yes Borders to Yes Shetland. Look at you. We've got the pensioners for independence, the EU citizens for independence. We've got bikers for yes. We've got all of the yes movement and all of your beautiful diversity represented here today. And let me tell you, you look bloody gorgeous, Glasgow. Friends, the last 48 hours have been tough. Been a bit of a shock for some of us in the movement, for example, for those in the SNP. But let me say this much, that we can't always choose what happens to us in life. But what we can choose is we react. And let me ask you, when it comes to the obstacles that come our way, just because obstacles are thrown in our way, are we going to pack our bags and go home? For what we believe in. I want to go to every single city, every single town, every single village, every single person, and tell them that this country's best future is as an independent nation in the European Union. What we're going to do. You know, our opponents, they've tried to write us off over the years. It was Lord George Robertson who said that with devolution, the independence movement would be killed, stone dead. And here you are, very much alive. And our opponents, they said, oh, you'll never get a pro-independence party as the Scottish government. Well, here we are. They said, you'll never get a pro-independence majority. And we literally broke the electoral system. And here we are with our partners in the Green Party, a pro-independence majority government. And in the last few days, my friends, in the last few days, they've said the independence movement is finished. Well, you don't look finished to me, my friends. And why? Why do we do what we do? Because we are driven by our values. It is our values that drive our desire for independence. I don't want independence only for its own sake. I see it as a means to a fairer, a greener, more prosperous, more equal Scotland. And if you ever want a demonstration of our values, this very square is a demonstration of our values. How many times have we gathered here in defiance of Westminster rule? When it comes to Westminster, who've created the hostile environment, the Westminster of Windrush, of go-home vans, the Westminster who wants to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, have we not come here time and time again, not in our hundreds, but in our thousands, and we've said loud and clear, refugees are welcome here. Or take matters further away from here, and we've seen a complete and utter lack of moral courage from Westminster when it comes to having failed the people of Gaza. And is it not the case that week after week after week, the good people of Glasgow have come to this square to say to the people of Gaza, you are not alone. We have come here in our thousands, week after week, to demand an end to occupation, an end to the violence, and an end to selling arms to Israel. We must see an end to the arming of Israel while so many innocent people are being killed. And when I talk about our values, let's also talk about our pensioners. And I'm delighted that this rally has been led by Pensioners for Independence. Let's give it up for the Pensioners for Indy, the Pensioners for Yes. And if you want a demonstration of the contrast of values, well, look how Westminster has failed our pensioners, failed to protect TV licenses for over 75s, failed, utterly failed when it comes to entrenching poverty of our pensioners through the mismanagement of the UK economy by Westminster. And ladies and gentlemen and friends, the biggest betrayal is the betrayal of the WASPy women. And we stand here as a movement to say to each and every single one of those women, my mum included, by the way, that we will stand with you in your fight for justice and your fight for compensation. And that, my friends, is why it is so important that we are all here united for that cause of independence. That's why I was so delighted, as you heard from Gordon, to work with Believe in Scotland, to work with the Green Party and the SNP all together to lay the groundwork for a constitutional convention. But be in no doubt, my friends, the cause of independence, regaining our nation's independence, will not be won by politicians. It will be won by the people. It will be won by you. My friends, it is the last yards that are the hardest. It is the last yards that are the hardest. But remember this, that it will be through our hard work, through our perseverance, that we will regain our country's independence. And we have to. We have to. Because every day that goes by, broken Brexit Britain is squandering the potential of our country. So we owe it to the giants on whose shoulders we stand. Those who unfortunately have passed on and didn't get to see independence in their life. We owe it to those giants, the Margot McDonalds. We owe it to the Winnie Ewings, the Neil McCormacks, the Bashir Ahmeds, the George Leslies. We owe it to every single one of them and to those generations who are yet unborn. It's for us to finish the job. That job that was started by our brave countrymen and women, not decades ago, but centuries ago, as they stood in defiance of Westminster rule. And they said that no man has a right to halt the progress of a nation. That was what they said. And I believe, my friends, that if we are driven by our values, if we are put at the center of our campaign love, compassion, empathy, then I don't doubt that we will achieve our nation's independence. So friends, believe in Scotland. Believe in the people of Scotland. And let's get out there. Let's work harder than ever before. And my goodness, what a prize at the end of it. I promise you, if we do that, we will win and regain our nation's independence. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you, Glasgow.
A huge, huge thanks to First Minister Humza Yousaf. Round of applause for what I'm sure you'll all agree was a rousing speech highlighting the many reasons why we support Scottish independence and believe in Scotland.
Now, we have come to the end of the rally part of the day, but it doesn't end here. And please do wait around because we do have one other speaker coming to the stage. Also, please don't forget about the after party that we're having between 7 and 12 with music from our host, Iona Fyfe. Tickets are £5 on the door, or you can get them from the website.
Yeah. So I hope you've all had as much fun as we have had spreading positive vibes about independence and an independent Scotland that we all wish to see. A wee reminder of the YSI Youth Conference, 17th, 18th of May in Stirling, with delegates from all over the European Union.
And with that, we have indeed come to the end of the rally. But please, ladies and gentlemen, just give us 2 more minutes to close things off. We have somebody who's very, very close to my heart. We'd love to invite Mary McCabe from our partners organisations, Pensions for Indie, to the stage. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you. A lot of you will know about our stalls that we run in Argyll Street in Mulgai and elsewhere. And we also, a year or 2 ago, we ourselves ran a wee demonstration in front of the UK government in Scotland building in Glasgow. There are 2 of these buildings, and maybe people aren't sure where they are. One is in Edinburgh, behind the Royal Mile, in a very quiet wee place. The other one is in Glasgow, similarly, behind Argyll Street, but in a very quiet wee place we know where it goes. So we wanted to point up these 2 buildings, what the dastardly plan behind their existence is, and that's why we had the demonstration. But an event like this is obviously on a totally different scale. There are dozens of things that can go wrong, and we need dozens of people to make sure they don't go wrong. So I'm very grateful to Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp and Marcus MacIntyre-Kemp, I believe in Scotland, for doing the heavy lifting. It was, dealing with the authorities and all that kind of thing. But as I said, there are dozens of other people to thank as well. We have to thank our inspiring First Minister Humza, Yousaf, of course, Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp himself, Jane McAllister. I saw her film in the GFT a long time ago, well, when it first came out, and it took me completely back to that year of 2014, and it will have done with anybody that was involved in that at that time. Pat Kane, Ross Greer, James Robertson, Halliday, our treasurer for Pensions for Indie, Iona. The thing about Iona Soper, actually her father helps in the Pensions for Indie stall in Mulgai. But that was the first time I'd met Iona herself. And just before she came on stage, there was somebody said to me, "Nobody ever talks about nuclear weapons anymore. You would have thought they'd gone away." Thing like this. Now, speakers can't inspire if the sound quality is poor. We've all been there, not being able to hear the really good speeches. So my next thanks go to Stage Group for providing the stage and the technical equipment. To Eunice, Olumide and Iona Fyfe, clearly decades away from their own pensions, but they were brilliant hosts in this event. Whenever I'm on a march, I try to get as close to the music as I can. So thanks also to Sir Alaba, pipes and drums, to She Boom, and again, Iona Fyfe for all the rousing songs and music. To the bikers, when I march anywhere, there they are. And I'm not just talking about Scotland. I've come across them in Germany as well, and the Netherlands. think these people have any homes. They come down from planets, independence things, and zoom back up to Mars or wherever. Also to all the stewards and volunteers and litter pickers. Yes, who make sure that we will be welcomed back another time. To everybody that sets up a stall, including myself and the people in the Pensioners for Indie stall. I know as a stall holder myself, these stalls are very important for picking up passers-by who are maybe not part of the indie camp yet. To all the photographers and people filming the event, if you look on social media and the national and maybe some other media outlets, who knows, over the next few days, you'll see some great photos and videos. Thanks also to Glasgow City Council and to Police Scotland for accommodating us in the first place. And finally, to all of you turning up time and again to these rallies. I've heard people who should know better patronisingly saying, oh, well, these rallies are good for, it gives people a wee bit a wee bit of a party or something. No, it is not about that. It's about a time when the media are playing down growing independence movement. These rallies show the world that and we will win independence sooner rather than later.